Welcome back, guys. I'm your host, Isaac Huerta. I hope you guys are doing amazing. I have a very special guest with me, my brother, Max. Welcome,
Hey,
Max. So honored to have you today, brother. I do appreciate you making the effort on a Sunday evening when you usually, it's the Sabbath day, and I know you
chill.
have been practicing it more and more, and you spend it with your fam. So I do appreciate you coming,
Yeah,
brother, here to the
it's an
crib,
honor.
to the new podcast studio. This is my second episode,
Hey,
and this is the second episode that I shoot with you. We did our yearly recap for 2025, so if you haven't watched that, I will link it or I'll put it here on the screen. Make sure you watch it. It was a good one. It has been doing pretty well
yeah.
compared to the
How many
2020.
views does it have?
It's close to 90.
90?
Yeah,
Yeah, when
it's
I checked,
close
it
to
was like
90.
70 something.
And I believe the previous year you were maybe on social media a little and you promoted it. I don't remember.
No, I think I was. No, I wasn't
No?
because I spoke in that video about leaving social media.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
But anyways, I'm excited to have you, brother. And in that episode, we dove into your personal life and your family and how you've been growing as a family man, as a stepdad in my
yeah.
eyes. And I know we wish we would have had more time to dive into some of those topics, but in preparation for this episode, do you remember I told you, Max, I think what inspires me
Yeah.
about your story is how, among many other things, right? But this is what I've been feeling
Right
lately,
now.
just seeing a lot of the contrast
Yeah.
in our
Right.
lives, which for you, you're a family man and you have been playing that role of um, a stepfather to Kathy's daughter, your girlfriend, and you have a beautiful family, and even your sister now lives with you. So I'm saying this because I want to make sure that the audience knows why this episode is important. In this show, guys, what I'm trying to accomplish here is talk to people that inspire me and understand their mission, or what I like to think about as the Lord's will. And we all explore that in our life, consciously or subconsciously. And I feel that you um, are working on that actively, and most recently in your family. So I think it's important because there are a lot of people out there who are in similar situation or thinking about starting a family where you're in your no, you are going to be 30 this year. I'll be 30
Yeah.
next year. But most of the people close to us are around that same age. And that's when you, as we've seen, you
Yeah.
start families and you get into serious relationships. So this could either inspire people, help people, allow people to see some of the mistakes that we've made, some of the mistakes that you've made. But I think at the end of the day, it's an important concept because you're navigating a Christian, in my eyes, without seeing the little nitty gritty,
Yeah.
a Christian household, and that's inspiring to me, brother. Just to clarify, this does not mean that we have it figured out, right? I know that was something that you wanted to make sure that the audience knows, and that is something that I'm aware of. And I think the beautiful thing about these stories and the people that I sit down with is that we really don't have anything figured out. And we're just trying to navigate life in a way that honors Christ, and we're learning as we go. And we're, at the end of the day, still baby Christians. And
Yeah.
some of the things that we decided on in the past, maybe we wouldn't do the same now, but that is okay because God is a merciful God and he forgives us, and he already paid the sin for us. So we're good.
Yeah.
Without further ado, sorry, brother, but that I think was important to just as context for the people watching. But thank you, brother, for being here. Let me start now with some questions. The first question that I want to ask you, Max, is when did you decide to lead your family intentionally? When was that moment for you that you said, yeah, I think I need to pivot to Christian values?
Yeah. I think from the very beginning, we decided to leave the family, and it was a mutual decision for me and Kathy to do. And I think we started to notice it because, well, one, I was already we were both already in that transition of really diving into our faith and coming to Christ and giving our life to Christ. I think when I started talking to Kathy, she got baptized like within a few months. And then I was already going to church and wasn't really thinking about getting baptized, but I was pretty deep into the church and building a community and just trying to live a Christian life. And so once Kathy moved in and Aria was in the house, I mean, we were already going to church like every Sunday. So, it was just natural that we continue that. And when we started to think about Aria and we started to having those discussions on like how is it that we're going to be raising our family, raising our kids, we decided to, yeah, it's going to be important that we follow God. And more than anything, because it's just like the foundation, as you know, as being a Christian, you have that foundation of Christ, and when you build on that foundation, it's much more solid than going by culture, right? And then as time goes on, you see kids from other families who don't have that type of lifestyle, and even Aria will notice like the difference. She will even notice the difference in values and the difference that the kids are, and they're just so caught up in like, for her, 'cause she hangs out with girls, like they're so caught up on boys and little things like that, right? And obviously, Arya's still a kid, so she still falls prey to those little things as well. But I think she just sees the difference in us. But yeah, I think it just really honestly just boils down a lot to just that is the lifestyle that I live. That's the lifestyle that Kathy lives. And again, it kind of caught us in this transition as we were going to go into this relationship. So as we both just wanted to be closer to Christ, like, our relationship got closer to Christ, Arya got closer to Christ, and it was just like a natural transition, right? It wasn't too much that, oh, we're going to pick this route because, it's the right route or whatever. It was more just like slow and steady. Our heart was already there, and just naturally, as you know, in church, right? You're going to church and they have those calls to actions, right? Attend Alpha, attend School of Discipleship, and so slowly, you come entangled with the church, with people in church, and your life changes.
I love that, brother. You've shared many stories with me where I felt that you resembled Christ and did actions that would honor him. But for the audience listening, what does it mean practically to be a Christian husband and father?
I think one of the biggest ones, the one that comes to my head, especially with kids, but even with your partner, right? I feel like me and Kathy have a pretty. Obviously, we have our issues and our tension moments, but at least as of right now, it comes in waves. Sometimes you go through them a little bit more, and sometimes a little bit less. But I feel like we don't have that many, like on a given week or on a given month. Whereas, I do hear from other relationships, they're just like constantly in it, like it just doesn't stop, right? Um, but I think it just comes down to grace, which is the ultimate, the ultimate, one of the ultimate Christian principles, which is to forgive and to have grace and mercy upon your neighbor, upon your family, upon your enemy, upon everybody, right? And so yeah, when you're living with in this scenario for me with Kathy and Aria, and it's two different personalities, it's two different mindsets, it's I'm a man, they're woman, so there's differentiation in that, and the ways that we see things and the ways that we do things. Arya's 11. We're both 29. Again, there is so much. Yeah, there's so much. We have to be in unity as much as we can, right? To be able to have peace and harmony at the home. But you're not gonna get that all the time. So the most important thing in those moments is just having that grace um, upon each one of us, and just being like, all right, like we're not perfect. And I think that's what we always come back to, which is like, no one is perfect in this household. We all make mistakes, and we have to be able to just forgive each other, give grace, and try to help the other person. So you know that's, I would say, the biggest principle that I can think of when it comes to leading the family.
And do you literally have that conversation with them? Basically, what you said right now, let's not forget this,
Yeah.
this, and that. It sounded almost like that is the conversation that you have right there and there if, let's say, you guys are fighting or in between an argument.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had it with Kathy, and yeah, like you said, we have our family meetings. So every Sunday we have our family meetings, and we'll go over touching points and things that we need to make sure that we're all being attentive of and being on top of. So I've had that conversation with Kathy, but again, it's a little bit more towards Aria, and just having grace towards her from everybody's angle. Because again, she's a kid, and like I said, like I've told you previously, that's just been one of the biggest challenges, is understanding how a kid operates. Because as much as we see kids, and we were once a kid, you you completely forget what that was until you finally start being with a kid,
Yeah.
and just dealing with that internal tension. So yeah, I have those conversations with Kathy, and sometimes we'll have them with Arya too. But again, like with Arya, she's like, she doesn't want to talk about that. She just wants to like have fun,
Yeah.
play games. So like when it comes, that's like one of the tough things with Arya, like getting into those deep conversations where you're trying to pick apart life. It's a little bit difficult. So we try to find our time, and I think Kathy has those conversations with her a little bit more sometimes, like one on one. But yeah.
One of my main goals is for men to be encouraged by what I post and what I'm learning so they can lead faithfully and purposely honoring God. You, as a man, Max, you helped me tremendously in that. But for the men that are watching, what does it mean to lead the household spiritually? We know that women have a specific role, God given, and men do too. But as a man, what does it look like to lead spiritually? And was it easy for you to explain that to Kathy?
Yeah, I think to lead the home spiritually, it comes back to making those decisions that are going to take your family to that next level, right? And kind of like one of the things, and again, this is where I'm not perfect, but one of the things that I did from the very beginning was we made a list of family values. So we had like a list of 10 to 13 family values, and I knew that that was important to kind of set a backbone, right, of like what is it that we stand for as a family. But so I made that, I led the family in that direction. But then like we haven't touched that list since it was pretty much created. So again, that's where, like, as the man, you're leading, right? And you have to lead and then be accountable and continue to keep things afloat. So I think that's what it is just pushing the family, having the protecting them. So like, for example, another thing that I can think of is like, um Arya, when she first moved in, that movie came out, Wicked. Ariana Grande and all of that. And I'm always watching content to protect myself spiritually as well, right? And so I saw a video from a pastor breaking that movie down,
Mm.
and he was just talking about like how it's evil and demonic, and all these things, right? And he's like, I mean, look at the name of the title, it's in the title, wicked. So it's like they're not even trying to hide it from you guys anymore. And so like I remember I watched this video, and Arya then gets asked from her friends to go see that movie.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it was one of those moments where I was just like, no, like you can't. Obviously, I told Kathy, right? I didn't just say it to her first. This was like when we first were, she was like barely moved in. And I told Kathy, I showed her the video. I told her no. And, Kathy's on board. So again, that's how spiritually, like I'm leading, I'm protecting, I'm looking at all of the angles that the enemy is trying to attack us from, and trying to be that firm voice in the family to make sure that we are making progress in our personal lives by doing the work, but then also in the protection side, and making sure that if I feel like something's off, or if I feel like nothing, someone's gonna get hurt one way or another, I'm there to like call them out. So that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. I mean, I could go on and on like sharing examples, but it's that, and obviously doing it with Christ in mind, like, because I have to get that wisdom from somewhere, right? Like I have
Mm.
to get that awareness from a source, and my source is Jesus Christ. So that's pretty much how I lead.
The picture that I got right now as you were talking is Ephesians 6:16 that
Oh,
says, take up the shield in all circumstances, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all of the flaming darts from the evil one. And the picture that I got
just
was just
spitting.
like the man
Yeah,
with the big shield of faith just blocking those evil arrows,
yeah.
just coming, and the man is just, because you were saying, right, like you kind of get ahead of it
Yeah.
and do a little bit of research.
Let me share one more. But like
Yeah.
for example, we went to Life Search, right? So it was
Yes.
a
The event.
Christian conference event here in LA, and again, it was like a double-edged
Sword.
sword, kind of, or like it was a fight that had like there was two sides to the coin there, because on one front I was playing offense because I wanted to push the family forward, and specifically that one, I was trying to push Arya into coming to Christ deeper, because they were going to talk about financial. They were mixing God and finances, which is such a, it's so hard to mix those two.
Yeah.
And you have to be really yeah, you have to be very intentional and very mindful of what you're going to say when you're bringing those two topics together, and then bringing like thousands, it was like hundreds of people, if not thousands. And so, yeah, that was a play that I was playing offense, where I was like, I want to again lead and build this spiritually and show Arya the possibilities, right? But on the other hand, like, yeah, in preparation for that event, like I was doing my research, right? Because I'm like, what is this event? Am I gonna get scammed? Like, is this legit? And in that research, but yeah, like you find a lot of I found like comments saying like, that they're ripping people off and
Mm.
this and that. And so, for a moment I was like, dang, should I just not go? Should I not put my family in that situation? But in the end, like I still went. But in that event, like, yeah, because obviously it's a funnel, right? It's a funnel, and they're trying to get you somewhere. So they're getting all these people to come together, and then they try to show you how to make money, right? And their two ways was trading and real estate.
Mm.
And so, bro, like when they made that first pitch, bro, like Kathy was ready to sign up, bro. Like she was
Oh,
ready
really?
to like get the course, sign up, because they pitch it like they're good,
Yeah.
and like again, because I had done my preparation already, I knew that that was gonna come. And like I
Mm-hmm.
saw like this one lady like just breaking it down very well, like just taking it very like thinking about it critically through the lens of the scriptures. And so I got a lot of knowledge from that video. And so yeah, like when that moment came, when they pitched us, like I was ready, like I was like, all right, like you're not gonna get me.
Yeah.
And I knew what I was there for. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that example because again, it's tough, like as like there are moments where you want to lead in a positive way and move your family, but that can be a vulnerable position because as you want to do the right things and make something happen in your life, that doesn't mean that it's going to go your way. It doesn't mean that the enemy is not there. It doesn't mean that there's going to be tension. So um yeah, again, I just wanted to share that example, how it's just in a lot of ways that I'm trying to protect and lead and grow but defend the family as well.
When you speak about these actions that you're taking, they sound easy to implement, but we can't forget that there are other people on the other side that maybe have different plans. Arya wants to do something different. She wants to have fun. She doesn't want to think too deep about things. Kathy also has her own way of thinking and she was ready to sign up, right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance love and authority?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like if I had a little bit more time to just kind of like think about it, I could probably come up with a different answer, but I think it's a lot of communication. I think it's a lot of communication, it's a lot of trust earned, and it kind of goes back to also like results. Results speak, and when you're walking the walk and you're being true to yourself, and you've acquired that wisdom, and they trust you, right? So like for example with Arya at the beginning, and creating her little business right now with Print Love by Arya, she didn't know what I was talking about. She didn't know what me and Kathy were talking about at the beginning. She had no idea of like the things that we were thinking of, right? But when we presented the idea to her and we told her what was possible, she was resistant and she didn't know, and she's like she didn't want to do it. She didn't see the vision, obviously, 'cause she's a kid, right? But as time has progressed now, like now she sees it, right? And so that's how you, through time, you kind of earn that trust, because as you start to pour life into them and you start to protect them, and they feel it, they feel it because it's coming from a good place and things turn out well. So like I said, when I was telling Kathy that, bro, like she was defensive. She
Mm-hmm.
was like, she was kind of like why like I just want to learn and this and that, and I was like, babe, like we already have so much on our plate. We're doing the Aria, we're doing this, we're like if you sign up for this, it's gonna deviate you, it's gonna bring more ideas. It's not that easy. Like look at what they're selling you the dream for $97. Like come on, and so yeah, like at first, it was like I was trying to give her love and authority, but it's because I was telling her no, right? And so she was resisting, but again, through communication, through just being patient, through trying to explain it to them, and again, for her, just all those moments where she's trusted me, then she's like, okay, like that's where like everything just kind of falls into place. But it's a process. But I would say it's a combination of those, again, trust, um, reputation, that then just as they see that in you, then they just fall into line
Yeah,
in a funny way.
yeah, I think that's very true that oftentimes to achieve that balance, you simply have to walk the talk and you have to earn those wins and they have to trust you. I see that a lot in the things that I do in my
Yeah.
life where people see the repetition.
Yep.
You also start to carry yourself differently. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we've heard this many times, right? But women love when a man can make decisions and they learn to trust a man when he gets it right. So if you're able to walk that walk with Christ and you communicate well, like you said, they begin to trust you. And then when it's again, you're putting that shield over them, and when you've protected them enough times, they're like, okay, he's the one. He can take care of us. I love
Yep.
that, brother. So, moving on, let's talk a little bit about this another area that inspires me about you. How not only are you looking after your immediate family, Aria and Kathy, but you recently brought on Charlene
Yeah.
to your sister to the mix, and her development, even though I'm, very far away from it, I can still see it, right? And it's wonderful to see. And from the times that I speak with her, she also feels just very advanced. Similar to Aria, similar to Kathy, all of them, whenever I speak to them, I feel that they're so advanced. So, how did that decision come about, and what is your role there with Charlene?
Yeah, that's been one that has been evolving, and again, just like even though she's 19, it's a very similar situation with Arya and with anybody. Like this is just goes with anybody, any individual. I mean, you and I have come across, and we work with a lot of people who say they want to do things, but it's tough. It's tough to follow through. It's tough to do the hard things because you're too old and you're too old, or because you're too young and you're too young and you don't have the wisdom, or there's all these excuses. So yeah, at the beginning with my sister, when she came, I mean, the decision came because she always wanted to be with me. She always wanted to live in California. She's always looked up to me, obviously, as her older brother, and again, giving her the 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 advice, as I was growing up and as she was developing, and telling her like what to do. She obviously began to trust me, and just also just giving her love, right? I think for my sister, it's more than advice and anything, it's just I gave her a lot of love. And so again, that just naturally came with a lot of trust, of her towards me. So yeah, she wanted to come and live in California, and at first it was just like she was just gonna be here for a little and live with us for just a couple of months so she could, because she had just graduated. So I wanted her to come check it out, get away from Indiana, see if she could make anything happen. Like I was just like she was doing the photography, so I was like who knows, maybe you got it in the bag, and you can make something happen in 2 months, and off you go. But man, like when she got here, it was tough, man. Like I saw how I know what you're saying, that she sounds advanced or whatever, but like the reality is I've had to work on her a lot. And for example, even like one small thing for her was she didn't know how to cook. Like she hadn't made, like she just wouldn't cook back at home, and I was like, how do you not know how to cook? Like you have to know how to cook. And so like that was one of the things that like it was a big learning lesson for her when she came. I was like, you're gonna learn how to cook here. Like you're just gonna learn how to do that. And so it's also just been a lot, and it hasn't even been career wise with her. It's been just like practical life stuff of just like getting her out of her comfort zone, getting her to show up more. But one of the things that I'm very proud of her is her Christian faith.
Hmm.
And she gave her life to Christ like a year, 2 years ago. And she was like 17, 16, and so that gave me a lot of confidence in where she was going to go in life. But yeah, when it comes to like the career stuff, the practical stuff, the life stuff, again, she's 19 and she was home all this time, and my parents um didn't give her the responsibility that she needed at the ages that she was going through. And so now she's kind of like doesn't know what that's like. And so yeah, my role with her has just kind of been trying to understand where is in life, and then just taking her from point A to point B. But the challenging part in that is just, again, the the frustration that I get, bro, because I get frustrated a lot when I tell them like do this, do that, and they don't do it and they don't listen to me. Oh man, It's the number one thing that gets me the most, and I just can't handle myself, bro. But yeah, it's been that's been kind of my journey with Sherlyn.
I love it. And I hope that the audience is looking at a key word for me this year. It has been intentionality.
Yeah,
How, when you're intentional in
yeah,
everything that you do, every
yeah,
relationship that you have in your life, man, the progress that you make as a person is next level. And when I hear you talk about these relationships, I just want men and women too to understand how, but I'm speaking to men right now, how as an older brother, as a boyfriend, as a family man, just look at how Max is being super intentional about every
yeah.
relationship, and it speaks volumes. And I that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I admire that about you. But I find it so interesting how you mentioned, okay, Charlene, you get here 2 months, let's see what you can cook. And then you realized,
She
man,
can't cook.
back to the basics, you know?
Yeah,
It's like, okay, there
yeah,
I was thinking, okay, Charlene's got it in a
yeah,
way, right? Okay, I'm
yep.
gonna put her to the test, 2 months, make something happen, off you go. And then she gets there, and it's different when you live with somebody, because you really get to see where they're at in their journey, and you realized, man, we have to go back to the basics with you.
And just real quick, I love how you said that, bro, because it just I literally had to tap into like where was I? Again, you when you're living with these people, right? Especially when they're younger, right?
Yeah.
Like you have the capability cuz I can't put myself in someone who's 50 years old and
Mm-hmm.
tell them to do something cuz I haven't lived to that age. Not that I can't, but like it's just tough. But when you again with Arya, 11 years old, you're like, "Well, how was I like when I was 11?" But yeah, with Shalyn, like I was like, bro, like what did I do? I was like, I'm hearing her share her struggle, and I'm hearing where she's at, and I'm like, what do you do at that point? I was like, that's right, like you go knock on doors.
Yeah.
And so like one of the first challenges I gave her, I was like, you're going to every business, you're knocking on their doors, and we would do this back in Austin. You're gonna go knock on their doors and you're gonna tell them that you do photography and that you're looking for a project. You're gonna offer them, 5 free photos, and you're gonna get clients like that. And yeah, like she goes and like starts knocking on doors, starts knocking. She was able to get like 1 or 2 projects from that.
Mm.
And but yeah, it goes back to like what you're saying, like going back to the basics. And so yeah, it's a challenge, man. Again, you're trying to tackle your own life. I'm trying to tackle Kathy's, my relationship with Kathy, my relationship with Arya, and then I add this other element. It is a lot, but it is a challenge that inspired me from the very beginning because I'm just so passionate about our families and just making sure, because at the end of the day, like we're putting in all this work, right? And I feel like part of the reason why we're doing all this work, and it's like, why are we doing all this work? Because we're gonna have kids, and you want that knowledge to just kind of continue to pass down, because you don't, again, we're here to break a cycle of some sort, right? And our parents broke a cycle from their family. So, it's like
Mm-hmm.
an accumulated knowledge that as you build onto it, then allows that family to continue to thrive for generations. So that's kind of why, I get so passionate about this, and also seeing all the brokenness around my family, around Kathy's family. As much as they've made progress from the brokenness that they experienced, there's still a lot of brokenness. So it's like I'm just so passionate, man, and like healing that and being able to get everybody to a place where it's like again, man, like I just thirst for a family that I'm just like everybody just is on it. Like everybody is doing something, like and you hear about these families that they're a lawyer, that they're an accountant, and like they support each other and help each other a lot. And not to say that we don't support each other, but when it comes to just like understanding some of these practical things, giving your life to Christ, it's just a range of things, health, the fitness aspect, spirituality. So it's all a big project, and so it's hard to attain all of it in one lifetime. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why it's like you got to do your part and just get the next generation to then do their part, and just time, slowly, you'll just be able to heal the family more and more.
Yeah. All of this is so good, Max. Men are getting to hear from your perspective as a man how you navigate your household as a Christian man. But I also want to hear from you so that women watching this, listening to this, get to hear how you view and how you've supported Kathy's role as a godly woman. And also for men watching this to understand how they can get there. So what role does Kathy play in all of this? How does she
Yeah.
support that vision, and what kind of work does she do with Ari and Charlene?
Yeah, I mean, she plays obviously like the other 50% of what we do in the household, right? And yeah, like it's just amazing because she has her own strengths, she has her own weaknesses, and we just identify those strengths and try to play on those. So like one of the big ones for Kathy is, her personality and her ability to just talk to people, and her energy that she's just able to bring to anyone. And I told her that that's like one of the smartest thing, like that's one of the things that I look up to her the most, is her ability to leverage her energy, right? Because energy is like, it comes and goes, right? And some people have more energy than others. And so her gift is just being able to leverage her energy to pretty much get whatever she wants in life. Like she's a negotiator, but like she's a different type of negotiator. Like she's just persistent, she doesn't take no for an answer. And um, and so we just try to identify those strengths. But my role has been able the most important thing here is being able to play her role. And I think that's what you can do, like as a man, when it comes to your relationship. And so one of the things that I tried to do very early on, and again, we're not married yet, so it's something that recently I'm like, maybe that wasn't the best move, but here we are. But like really trying to take care of her, right? And really taking care of your partner, financially. So that's one way that I identified pretty early on. If I can remove that stress, right? Because it's not easy working. It's very stressful, right? Especially when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through the valley and when you're going through tough moments. And yeah, I just feel like naturally a lot of people don't want to work, right? They want to retire, they just want to make passive income. And so what do women don't really want to be out there in the workforce, grinding 40 hours, 40 plus hours,
Yeah.
coming back home, feeding the kids, taking care of the husband. Like, it's a lot of work for the woman. So that was one of the things that I wanted to just do very early on. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to, that's been my role with Kathy. So then she can do her part, which is being able to raise Aria. And right now that she's homeschooling, she's able to pour life into Aria. She's able to take care of the home. And then she's also able to, she was also doing her projects, so it gives her the ability to do her projects. But it comes, obviously that comes with the cost of, yeah, you don't have a job, you don't have an income coming in, which
Yeah.
has been tough for her. Letting go of like not having your own income coming in. It's like, it's something that is kind of hard, because nowadays, like, everybody's making money one way or another. Then of course you have your expenses, right? But um yeah, that's been the biggest way that I've tried to help Kathy. And then like I said, then from there, as soon as I remove that stress away and that tension of like work, and like waking up early to go to work, and today's Sunday, right? Like she's not at home right now tripping like, "Oh, tomorrow work, like, like I don't want to go," everything that people go through when they have a job. So yeah, now that she doesn't have that, she's able to, tomorrow she starts homeschooling, focuses on the kids, focuses on making sure the family is good to go. And then yeah, and then she shows Arya and Kathy how to do that, and she leads spiritually as well as a woman in how to do that, making sure, like, when our church has a prayer room, she's signing up for that. She's telling Kathy, she's telling Charlene, she's bringing Arya. So yeah, she also plays her role in what she does with the gifts that she has.
Beautiful, brother. What boundaries do you set in place to make sure that your relationship with Kathy continues to improve? Again, it sounds that you are very busy with Arya and Charlene, and I know you're busy with our businesses
Yeah.
too. So, what routine do you have in place to make sure that you continue to work on that relationship with
With
Kathy?
Kathy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I told you about like those family meetings. So we have those family meetings every Sunday. Talk to the whole family. We start with a prayer. And then we get into the conversations of like what's affecting us, what's going good, where's some highlights, just planning for the week. Again, being intentional, right? Like, hey, it's this week. What do we have, Shilin? What are you doing, Ari? What are you doing? Because yeah, like if you don't do something like that, something simple as like just kind of recapping and bringing, yeah, you go into the week and like everybody's just kind of all over the place. You can't build like that. You can't create like that, and you can't you have a sound mind like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. We also have our date nights, where for me and Kathy, we make sure that we have time away from the kids. And so we have our date nights, making sure that we go to church every Sunday, making sure that we're attending our community group, because we need to continue to, we're doing a lot of pouring into Arya, into Sherlyn, into other
Mm-hmm.
people, so we need to get someone to pour into us, right? So that's
Right.
why we go to church every Sunday. We go to our community group every Tuesday. Creating budgets, that's one thing that me and Kathy have also been working on a lot for the financial health of our family, making sure that again we're on point on what are we spending. So we've been working, and that was something that I brought Kathy in, because yeah, when your partner doesn't know the numbers and they don't know what you're spending, like things like that, then they don't know what's going on and they just spend money. And like if you don't set a budget, right, as in our business, but in your family, like if you're creating a family and there is no budget, then the money is just going to come in and it's going to go out and people get in debt. And one of the reasons why, one of the biggest reasons why there's a lot of divorce is because of finances, money. Like, people can't make it happen. So being able to have those boundaries of like, this is how much we're spending in food, and this is our rent, this is our bill, this is how much we're spending in miscellaneous fun stuff this month. And so just being very on top of those things is crucial. But yeah, like I would say those are a few.
That sounds like a good amount of things
It's
that
a
will
yeah that
definitely,
I could yeah like I could say a few more,
yeah.
but like that alone is like, that's like a good chunk of like your whole week, and including a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you definitely have a busy schedule, and that's why I was curious to understand how do you keep the romance alive, right? Because it all sounds like you really are, in a way, trying to perform the best,
Yeah.
right? And in that performance, sometimes
Yeah.
we can forget to have fun and to enjoy our partners, but maybe you focus more on the this is how we lead spiritually. But I see, from what I can see, you guys have a beautiful and healthy relationship, so I'm sure you guys are navigating the best way possible. Max, now I want to address the elephant in the room.
Oh.
And that is, you've mentioned this a couple of times here in this episode, which you've said, and we're not married yet. Where are you at with that? I gave the context to the audience that we're not perfect
Yeah.
and we've made mistakes, and doesn't mean that we're not trying to correct them, right? Sometimes we make decisions and we have to live with them, and all we can do is just make things better or pass on the right things to our sons, our daughters, or even people that are watching, listening to this. Where do you stand with that? And what would you say to people who are maybe now in a relationship and want to explore more intimacy with their partner, but they also know that the Christian values, or even the Bible, dare I say, does not allow, is that the right word, for that kind of intimacy before you get married? Where do you stand in all of that, and what do
Yeah.
you say to people?
Yeah, that was, I mean, that was one of the things that it was tough doing this podcast, right? Because I know
Yeah.
you wanted to talk a lot about the family, which is just interesting because, again, it's one of those, it's just one of those funny things, right? Sometimes, like, you don't want to talk about something, but that's the thing that other people find the most interesting. And so, like, yeah, going into this conversation, even, like, we'll get it from other people too. Recently, they've been telling us, like, your family and this and that, and so that's also what kind of gave me the confidence to do this. But yeah, the reason why it was tough to do this podcast is because, again, I know, like, I'm all like we're going through so many things that we're figuring out, because you're always going through things. Everybody's trying to figure out life and where they're at, whether it's their business, whether something horrible, like someone had their parents passed away. Like, how do I live now without my parents? Or people who are adopted. Like, everybody is figuring things out one way or another. So what I'm trying, yeah, like where I'm at right now is with the whole family situation, and trying to understand, like, okay, how do I move where I'm at in life. And yeah, that is one thing that, in that transition, as me and Kathy were starting to date, and I asked her to be my girlfriend, I was very early on in my Christian faith. And so I didn't really understand a lot of the principles. I knew some things, I didn't know some things. I had the strength to do, lead in one way, but maybe not in the other. And so this has been, again, one of those ways, you talk about leading and protecting. And yeah, like, that's one way. If you're a man right now and you're getting into a relationship, that's one great way that you can protect and lead that partner in not having that intimacy and not moving in with each other. Because that's one thing that, like, at this point, like, um going into, when I look back at our relationship, I do see why some of these mistakes are made, and why, as time goes by, you understand why it's not good. Like, for example, at church, Gare just talked about sex, right? And he talked about how, like, it's a covenant, right? And it's a covenant that, at the end of the day, it's supposed to reignite, that relationship that you have with your partner. And you're kind of like sharing that covenant again. That's why God made sex, right?
Mm.
um and so, like, yeah, it kind of hit me and Kathy, and we're like, yeah, that's why, like, you can't live with your partner, because even if you say you're not going to have sex, but you're going through all these tough things in life, you can't, have sex later on that day and kind of, like, make that covenant reignite, right? And so, you learn little by little. And even, like, for example, another thing that hit me recently was, like, the finances. And um I took that role of, like, starting to cover Kathy's expenses, starting to provide for her. But obviously, like, yeah, if, there's nothing binding us, like, there's no marriage. So, at the end of the day, which happens to relationships all the time, right? They move in, they start paying for this, they start mixing the money one way or another. they break up, and it's like, bro, like you just invested, $10,000 into her car,
Mm-hmm.
and now you don't, now you're separate, right? So it's a big pitfall for people, and I'm grateful, and I mean anything can happen, but obviously, yeah, I'm working very hard for nothing to happen, nothing to go south. But again, you open yourself to just a lot of problems if you just don't do things the right way. And so I didn't know a lot of these things, and you kind of know it, but you don't really know it. And so that was my problem going into my relationship with Kathy. As you know, when you're in love, you get excited, you want to do things, you justify everything, right? And so that's kind of what happened to me, and I just kind of felt like things were falling into place, and things were working out. And so we decided to, again, move in with each other, mix in Aria, which is even tough. Like, I mean, you talk about like moving in with someone, but then you add a kid. It's like, man, like I really set myself up here. But but again, man, I think what's made this possible is the grace of God. Like, I think that's what it is, because had I, made this happen, and I see it all the time, I see it happen with people who just get into those relationships. And so that's where, like, again, like, what is your foundation built on, right? Because I don't know, like, I don't want to say something crazy here, right? But like, let's say that you have a couple that's married, right? But have no foundation in God, right? But they're married. Legally they got married, and by the state they have their certificate, right? But they don't have that foundation built on Christ. Versus you have another couple who's not married, but they're built on, and which is kind of hard to say, right? Because if you're following Christ, then you would marry, right?
Yeah.
But let's say you're building the foundation, you kind of have that.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest one, right? But like, you're building around that. I mean, that's again where I feel like it's helped us just navigate our relationship, and again, there have been so many places where like it could have gone bad, right? But again, because we're following Christ and we're learning how to live a Christian life, like, it's been possible. But yeah, we're still, we're making strides to go in the right direction and get married.
Okay, that was going to be my follow up question. How do you and Kathy now view marriage?
Yeah, it's something that, from the very beginning, I mean, we both view it the same. And I think we both are like, I even told Kathy, I was like, can't let Charlene, Kathy's sister, like anyone who comes before us, like, we have to protect them so they don't do this, because it's a big risk. And again, the things have worked our way, but yeah, we have to make sure that we have to make sure that the people who come now after us, Aria, right, that they know and they understand, like, why, right, and really go into the layers. But yeah, we definitely believe that you need to get married first, and there's a specific way. And I feel like, I mean, honestly, like, that's where I feel like you are kind of almost in a way more well versed in how to do things, because I feel like now you're actually doing things. I'm kind of looking at it from the lens of like, it would have been nice, if you would have
Mm-hmm.
done if we would have done this. But I feel like you're actually doing those things now, and so I feel like you'd be like a little bit more well versed. But on my end, it's just, again, like, yeah, we know that it should have been like this, and so now for us, it's just like, let's correct and understand like what we've done here, and let's correct the course.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. I'm going to use your story, as a moment for me to share something vulnerable, which is part of the reason that I feel that I'm not making, I'm not putting too much effort into getting into a relationship, is that I feel that I can love very deeply, and I love intimacy. And as much as I read the Bible and do my spiritual practices, man, you put
Yeah.
in front of me a woman that I'm getting
It's
feelings for.
yeah. It's tough.
It's tough,
Yeah.
brother. It's tough. And I've done a good job. I've been,
Well, that's why you don't put yourself in that again in that situation because it's tough for anybody, right? Man
yeah.
and woman.
And, but yeah, I feel that I am a little bit fearful of falling prey to sexual immorality
Yeah.
and moving too fast. I almost feel like I don't know how to do the
Uh,
Christian way in
yeah.
dating and love. You know, I have the knowledge here in my brain, but when it comes to application and she's right there in front of
Yeah.
me, oh boy, I just feel that I could get loose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're 100% right when I feel that I'm in a season where, again, I am just content with God and I'm learning how to be even more content and satisfied with God. But at the same time, I can't help but think I can't wait until I feel that I am perfect and until I feel that I
Yeah.
can overcome every temptation because he who finds a wife finds a good thing, right? The Bible says that, and I should have the, I can't remember the reference, but he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And when I think about that, I know that in relationships, when you get with the right woman, she can also help you in those things. But if she also struggles with that, I feel
Yeah.
that that's when I want to explore intimacy further with you. And why don't you come over? Why don't we watch something? And we're both laying down on the couch. And then one thing turns to another, and then
Yeah.
another. And then
It's
next thing you
tough.
know, you're falling in love with this person. So, yeah, it's vulnerable for me because, again, I feel that similar to you, right? I feel that I know a lot, but at the same time, when put to the test, I can fail. And that's the part for me that discourages me a little bit. And yeah, I just don't know when it will be the time for me where I feel like I can do this, and I can do it in a way that honors God. But maybe again, God will put the right
Yeah.
person in my life and it'll bring peace. And I'll feel this for men who are watching this. I think, again, the way that you recognize when something is worth, a woman is worth pursuing, I think she brings you a lot of peace and she makes you feel confident that I'll be able to overcome temptation with her because she's also on the same page and she also has Christian values and she wants to wait until marriage and I feel strong in that. So, yeah, just wanted to add that there, brother.
Yeah.
We have about 5 minutes left and I want to ask you this one couple more questions,
Yeah.
but where in your family as a man leading your household, where have you failed and or grown the most, you feel like?
Yeah. So where have I failed, right?
Yeah.
In my family?
Yeah. As a man, as a
But with in regards to my family,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I would say where I have failed the most has been again in
Sorry, and I don't want to end it there. I don't want to end negatively. So say where you have failed, but also then
where I've
let's
grown.
finish with where you have grown the most.
Yeah. I mean it's kind of like the same one almost in a way, right? But the one that I feel like I have failed the most has been in just having um just that emotional intelligence to navigate those intimate relationships, right? Because when you're with strangers, when you're with people that are friends, but they're not too close, they have their little quirks, they have their little downs, but you kind of brush them over. You don't make a big deal about it. You're like, oh, this person's kind of like that. That's actually kind of funny. But when you're with your siblings, when you're with stepdaughters, wives, all of these very intimate relationships, um, where I feel like I have failed the most as of recently has just been in managing those emotions, because they're pressing my buttons, they're not doing the things that one would want them to do. And that's not how you lead, right? You don't, again, we talked about grace and mercy, and building people up, and you don't want to discourage others. And it's very tough for me when I'm in those situations. And even recently, like with Arya, like, and me and Kathy, like I told her, like I had to kind of take a step back on the discipline aspect with Arya, and kind of take a little breather, because it just kind of got, because I told Kathy, I was like I can be on top of her, like it's not hard to be on top of a kid, and just be like, do this, do that, and like, just like seeing every move that they take, and calling them out, like, why didn't you do that? You were supposed to take the dog out. Why didn't you clean your hands? Why haven't you? It's so easy. And so, yeah, recently, again, because I was having such a tough time managing those emotions of like, seeing Arya not do these things, it was just like affecting me a lot. So I had to take a step back and just be like, you know what? I feel like I just need to like leave the discipline a little bit more towards Kathy for like at least a couple of weeks,
Mm.
and just have fun with Arya. And
Mm.
like, I'm not gonna be on top of her on her food and this and that, because that just, again, it goes back to like what I was saying. It causes tension, and it causes problems when, if you don't know how to manage it, if you don't know how to do it right. So there's obviously a way that you can tell the kids, do this, do that. But yeah, when you're coming at it from a different angle, and you're not building that relationship in a proper way, where you're kind of like becoming the friend, right? And like, you're just kind of coming more from like an authority, going back to like the whole love and authority. If you're just coming from that angle, and like, one of the things that I didn't mention in this whole podcast, but one of the things that has helped us a lot, is to, we have our counselor. We have a therapist, and
Mm.
we don't see this therapist like super often, because we really go to them like when it's like, I feel like a lot of the times I'm able to like reason with Kathy, and like, we're
Mm.
able to get to a good uh, point where we're both able to agree. But in those moments where it's just like, yeah, I feel like we're not getting anywhere, and like, you don't agree with what I'm saying, and I don't agree with what you're saying, I call timeout, and I'm like, I'm just not going to continue this conversation no more, because I don't feel like you're right, and you feel like you are right, and like, I don't feel like we're trying getting reason. So we have our counselor, and I just remember our counselor one telling, like, when it came to Aria, he was saying, you can discipline, but there has to be connection first. You
Mm.
have to connect with them first, in order, it just can't be all discipline. So yeah, recently, like, that's been one area where it's just like with Arya, um I've been trying to manage those emotions, and I was just like very disciplined, be on top of her, do this, do that. If you don't do this, like, you're gonna get a consequence. And again, that's just like, it messes with your emotions, right? Because it's a lot of tension. So that's one thing. And same thing with Kathy and Sherlyn. Less with Kathy, because Kathy's, she's 29, she's a grown up. I'm not telling her like what to do.
Of
Like,
course.
it's just little things, that maybe like bugs me for the most part. But like, Kathy's like grinding it out like every day. Like, she wakes up, just, we just grind. Like, we just grind it. So it's like, it's kind of like with you. Like, I feel like you and I don't have that much tension, because it's like, I see you grinding, like, you're just fucking going at it, right? But then again, with Charlene, like, she's not really there yet. So like, there's some tension there too, because I'm like on top of her. Hey, why aren't you doing this? Like, told you to do this. Why haven't you done the photo shoot? Like, all these things. So it's been that, managing my emotions. But like I said, that's where I have grown the most at the same time, because
Mm-hmm.
as I'm getting put through all these tests, like day in and day out, like, I'm battling with it. I'm battling every day with those emotions, and I'm trying to understand, and like, what should I do? Like, and so with Arya, like, I came to that realization recently, where I was like, yeah, we just can't be on top of her all the time. Like with like, because again, like it comes from all angles. Sometimes for Arya, where everybody's like
Yeah.
Kathy's telling her this. Charlene is always like Charlene's telling her things too. You know, like Charlene's telling her wash your hands, put on your slippers. You know, everything. And then I'm telling her. And so yeah, like I just kind of got
Mm.
to this point recently where I was just like, again, time out, Charlene. Like you're not telling Arya any more things because it's like she's just a kid, you know, and
Mm.
she's like she and so it's just like understanding like how a kid operates is so critical just in general, like people, how do people operate, right? But in my scenario right now with the families, like how do kids? And so that's been a big learning curve. And so that's where I feel like I have grown because, you know, a year ago I would have been like, babe, like, did you just see what Arya did? Like, that's so gross. Like, you have to tell her something. But now I'm just like, yep, she's a kid. Like, you know, and understanding that it's phases, right? Like kids are going to go through those phases. They like the nasty, gross things. They want to see the scary movies, right? But they're not always like that. They
Mm-hmm.
move on. So yeah, that's where I'm growing, and I do pray to God that I can continue to understand and to just control those emotions and just be more loving and understanding, but still being firm and protecting and building in a way that encourages them and doesn't just like put him down.
I love it, brother. You inspire me so much, Max. And as I told you when we were on the phone FaceTiming, I told you, bro, this is the powerful, not one of the many powerful things about your story and what you're doing in your life, which is the way that you're conducting yourself as a man, and also most importantly, your family, because that's the future. Arya, Charlene, they are going to be woman at some point, right? Well, Charlene is already,
Yeah.
she's 19, so definitely I appreciate all the work that you're doing, brother, and I love having these conversations with you. I'll just like to, I forgot to pray at the beginning, so I guess I'll switch the angle, but now I
Yeah.
just want to pray for you and for this podcast to do well in people's lives, whoever watches this. So, dear Heavenly Father, just want to thank you for this hour plus with my brother Max. The fact that we get to talk about what we're working on in our lives and be able to be vulnerable through your grace, because we are reminded by you that we are forgiven, that you already paid the price, that we do not need to be ashamed, but we do need to confess and repent and correct our mistakes, and most importantly, pass on what we are learning so that other people can reflect and do their own research and try their best to be better. So I pray for this podcast and these words, Father, to connect deeply with people and do as you will with this episode. May it be for purely entertainment or inspiration or helpful advice or even a transformational moment for someone watching this. I pray for my brother Max that he continues to be a godly man, and he's already doing such an amazing job. So I pray for strength and for grace and for peace in his household. Pray for Kathy, Arya, and Charlene, beautiful family that you've been cultivating and working on and just showering them with so many resources and love. In Jesus' name I pray, Father. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much for your time, Max. I love you, brother. And I hope that like you said in the other episode, I feel like you'll be a
Jake
recurring
Paul.
a recurring guest. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave a comment if you found something in here that resonated, something that maybe you disagreed with or agreed with. I welcome all feedback, and yeah, thank you so much for watching and spending this hour with us. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Love you.
Love you too.